Uh, Thank you, Niaman, for inviting me here. Before I start this talk, I would like to say I'm really glad to share this stage with so many wonderful people. First, with Brahanu, who has inspired so many people during the 2005 election by bringing idealism as a central cause to fight for, and also who has disappointed so many people like me by departing. Ways has contributed towards forcing me to think about this presentation, and I'm a little bit threatened that he's going to speak after me and take me on. All right, let's go to the presentation. My topic is towards multicultural democracy, reconciling nationalism, and this topic I'm going to focus just on one aspect of multiculturalism, the political part of it. There are two things. አንድ ሰው እዚህ ጋር መጥቶ ካልያዘው እንዴ እጄ ስለሚሯሯጥ ላልችለው ነው። ያንን አምጣልኝ፣ እዛ ጋር ያለውን አምጣልኝ። እኔ ፍየል እያገርኩ ነው ያደግኩት፣ አያችሁ፣ እና እጄ በጣም ይሯሯጣል። So there are two aspects for today. Now, in Ethiopia there are two nationalisms that have existed and still continue to exist side by side, which is Ethiopian nationalism, Ethiopianist nationalism, pan-Ethiopian nationalism, whatever you call it. And the other one is ethno-nationalism. These two forces started to fight. I mean, their original contention can be traced back to the emergence of the modern Ethiopian state. The cause for this contention is one is the emergence of the Shawan hegemony at the end of the 19th century. This led to subjugation of the South and the Gabbard system, which was oppressive, repressive, and that was attempting to forcefully assimilate the South at the same time, which was extremely exploitive. Now, what that produced was, it led us to a resistance, emergence of rebellion in the South, in the Bale, in Raya, in every other places, and a revolutionary politics also came towards the end of the 1960s in the center, in Addis Ababa and everywhere else. Now, the other issue that led to this growth of contention between the two nationalisms is the land and national rights came as the central slogan for the progressive movement in 1970s. These slogans are challenged and resisted by the conservative establishment of the Haile Selassie regime. During this time, there was an attempt to compromise these two competing and conflicting nationalisms. One of the attempts was to accept national rights, or what they call the national question, as a just cause. What this has done is two things. One, it provided a safe venue for ethno-nationalists to express their feeling and their anger toward the center. At the same time, it also contains them. It contains the ethno-nationalists within the Ethiopian umbrella organizations. However, there was a problem during this student movement. There was a hyper acceptance of national rights. One, because of a tactical move and need to ally with Eritreans. Two, because of peer pressure, and so on and so on. What this has a problem, when politics got radicalized towards the early 70s, we have people talking about armed struggle and communism and all this stuff really prevented the progressive negotiation from becoming fruitful. Then the regime collapsed before the movement emerged, before the movement matured. Now, the crash of the progressive politics in Ethiopia has a devastating impact to what we are talking today. What it did really is this. One, after the crash of the progressive movement, Darg adopted a very conservative right-wing nationalist rhetoric. Why? Number one, the Somali war and the resurgence of Ethiopian nationalism that was beaten down by the student movements. This provided the Derg a political capital. Therefore, it didn't need to ally itself, or it didn't need to keep the alliance with the progressive forces. No longer communism and the land for Taylor and all these slogans were important. You can just say Ethiopia took them and you are on the right track. Second, the opposition made a tactical decision to ally themselves with Eritreans, separatist Eritreans. What Mengistu only needed to do at that time was to say, What? These people are going to split the country. These people are mercenaries who are going to split the country. And the nation was so scared. They said, dude, go ahead. Now, Derg, by adopting this very violent Ethiopian nationalist, it was also a very violent and repressive regime. The ordinary people, especially in areas I grew up, never understood the difference between Ethiopian nationalists. Ethiopian take them and then let me kill you was the same in that area. This was very important for a lot of people. It was very important for ethno-nationalist movements. What it did was this. They could simply say, hey, you are being repressed by the name of Ethiopia. You got to fight Ethiopia. They intensified a very effective anti-Amhara and anti-Ethiopian campaign. And finally, they defeated Derg. Now, when Derg was defeated, I was a little young. When Derg was defeated, was it a fall of a repressive regime or was it a defeat of Ethiopian nationalism? I think ethno-nationalists took it to say that Ethiopian nationalism is dead and we have defeated it, we are going to bury it. Then this led to the hegemony of the ethno-nationalism. The ethno-nationalism that took power in 1991 had a very interesting dynamic. They defeated Derg and they continue to attempt to dismantle Ethiopian nationalism. Ethiopian nationalism went underground. The ethno-nationalism has this transformed role. They are dominating the center. They are running the country. They continue to talk this peripheral rhetoric. They continue to talk about this Ethiopia as oppressing people, but they are still in power. So we had this void of state ideology. Mallas Zenawi is in power and talking about golden people of Tigray, but he's running Ethiopia. This has a very serious consequence. You cannot run a house and still talk for the Gwada. It was very important at that stage. Now, this consequence has one. It led to failure of the government. No value judgment. It led to failure of the government to advance collective interest. Nobody cared about C2 access. You are running a country and you are cutting the C2 access, and it's going to bite you back because the economy will be badly affected. Your power will be in question. So they let the Eritrean situation go messy. It's nationalization of everything. Even the national military, okay, I have no problem with regions and everything else. Even the national military, the postal service, everything became such an ethnic enclave. And still they are in power and they are saying, hey, if you push us any further, we will dismantle the country. They continued their obsessive anti-Amhara nationalism or anti-Amhara rhetoric. This led to another problem for Ethiopia. Amhara self-defense. Amhara is under attack. Amhara self-defense came to overlap with Ethiopian nationalism. Ma'ad and all these organizations were having Ethiopian flag in one hand and talking Amhara in the other hand. This justifies the long-standing claim of the ethno-nationalism. And it was a major devastation to Ethiopian nationalism. Now, all these games that was played in the 90s had a backlash against ethno-nationalism. Why? We the nation and nationalities took power. However, what we have is a minority domination and a continued repression. You have a new guys, new government, new rhetoric, the same rule for ordinary people, the same repressive system. Worse, this time you have a clearly defined minority group exploiting and repressing people. Therefore, we the nation nationalities promise of 1991-92 was unfulfilled and miserably failed within 5 to 10 years. This led to emergence of a very right-wing reactionary Ethiopian nationalism that manifested itself as an opposition force in 2005. Now, safeguarding unity and dissolving ethnic federalism, regaining Assad, and individual rights are the slogan. Now, the post-2005 understanding or maybe misreading the 2000 election. Was it a voting for change? Were people voting for change? Or was it a referendum on ethnic federalism? I think the right-wing group took it as A referendum on ethnic federalism. People are rejected ethnic politics, ethno-nationalism is failed. The same mistake the ethno-nationalists made in 1991. Mind you, the same mistake, just 15 years later. Some voted for change. Some voted for, no doubt. During this time, there are people who wanted to do away with ethnic federalism. There are also people who are just fed up with Malala Zenawi. So it has to be understood from that point of view. This election was also a warning to ethno-nationalists that hegemony is no longer safe. They can no longer be the only game in town. Ethiopian nationalism is silent and hiding, but not dead. It's going to wait time, it's going to come up. So it showed them that. This election was also brought a backlash within a very short period of time against reactionary forces. The post-election alliance of ethno-nationalist elites. Let me repeat. The post-election realliance of ethno-nationalist elites, which Malala Zenawi is a clear example. Opidio has more educated people today than ever before in its history. Why? Because the Oromo elites fear that Haile Selassie is coming back. Now, the status quo. Now the status quo found itself in a very murky situation. One, they saw that Ethiopian nationalism is coming up. So what do? They adopted this Ethiopian rhetoric. There is Flag Day, where you are forced to have the flag, to buy it actually. You buy it for $10. You have rhetoric of national sovereignty and talking about Eritrea and talking about Somalia. You have reclaiming 300 years. Malala Zenawi was saying Ethiopia has 100 years. And just 15 years down the road, he's saying, no, we have 3,000 years ago, years of history. The only problem is that, oh, the first millennium was great, the second was dark, and now we are starting the new one. And the very secessionist parties that took power in Ethiopia is waging a very anti-secessionist rhetoric against Ogaden. This all Ethiopianism is, at the same time, when they have intensified, this is weird, when they have intensified Tigrayan supremacy. In last 40 years, it is scary. I was in Addis Ababa just a couple of weeks ago. It is scary what they are doing. At the same time, they are talking about Ethiopia. The future. I think progressive politics is the way forward. Neither of the two nationalisms can sustain hegemony. We have seen this. But each have a significant supporter and a proponent. I disagree with my friends here. Ethno-nationalism has a significant support. Ethiopian nationalism has a significant support, and they will continue to be. They have to negotiate and reconcile. Neither will cease to exist. And actually, they are very important. From my standpoint, they are very important. Ethno-nationalism will help us to deal with historic disparities. And it will also help us to preserve cultural identities. Oromo nationalism is the greatest thing that happened to Ethiopia. It recreated and preserved Oromo identity, which will help us to usher a very important democratic value in Ethiopia. Okay? At the same time, this is not the end of the game. Ethiopian nationalism will help us to safeguard the existence of the state and will help us to advance the collective interest of the nation. Therefore, multinational democracy requires a negotiated consensus between these two. Done. Now, for these two nationalisms to negotiate and reconcile, we have to understand the political spectrum in Ethiopia. I took this from Leon Baradat. His book is called Ideology, Its Origin and Impact. I found it very important. I've been thinking how to understand Ethiopian politics. It's so a little crazy. So I found this. Now, Baradat he says ideological spectrum should be understood on what kind of change they want and how much. Now, on the left, he has a radical. Somewhere next, the liberal, moderate, conservative, and reactionary. The radical says, I am sick of this system. I want to dismantle it and create a new one. He has no taste, nothing in the system. So he wants to create a new one. In the opposite direction, you have the reactionary, right wing. That says, you know what, I'm tired of this system. The past was better, let's go back. These are two opposing, but the same. They are both extremists. They are fed up with the system. One want to go forward, the other one going to go backward. You have the liberal that says, you know what, this system is messed up, it has to be improved, and I believe in the agility of these people. It says we need institutional and functional change. While the others, the remaining two, the two extremes require and demand a structural change to the country or to the system. These ones require institutional or functional change. There is a moderate that says, you know, this system is bad, but if I want to push it, everything is going to be messy. Therefore, I need incremental and gradual change. You have the status quo or the conservatives that say, you know what? I'm good. Let's keep these things. Okay. In Ethiopia, ገደል ማሚቱ ታውቃላችሁ? It's ገደል ማሚቱ. Now, imagine ገደል እረኛ የሆናችሁ ሁለት አፋፍ አለ. You have one hill on this side and you have another hill on the side. So you have the radical ethno-nationalists that is fed up with the system. They say, you know what? This empire can never be democratized. I want to rip it apart. He stands there and shouts to the other one. The reactionary said, you know, everything that went wrong in Ethiopia is because of ethnicity. You know what? We need to go back to one solid country. No ethnicity, nothing. So they yell at each other. You have the status quo, which is positioned itself in the middle. Very well. For the radical, it tells him, this reactionary is going to take you back to Haile Selassie. No, you don't want that. And for the other one, it tells you, these people are going to split this country. You are not going to have a country. At the same time, it also represses the progressive voice. That says the voice of reason and the voice of consent is repressed in Ethiopia by both these three groups. The status quo will keep it down because it will expose its lies. The radical hates it because it is this wannabe a sellout. It's a sellout because he has a renegade in his ethnicity. The reactionary says, you know what? I heard a word here in BC. They said the Amhara apologist. So the progressive says that the Amhara apologist was Oromo sellout. Now, therefore, Ethiopia is become a hostage of radical and reactionary politicians. Each has a very small base. Two ideologues, highly committed, and effectively organized. You will be surprised. The radical ethno-nationalists and the reactionary right-wing Ethiopianists are very, very effective and they are very vocal. They hear each other. There was this guy who told me, okay? They hear each other. So for an Oromo, the Amhara is just the radical reactionary. The voice of reason doesn't exist. The same for the other one. Their shared characteristics is this: fear and insecurity. The radical uses fear of internal domination. The reactionary nationalist uses fear of disintegration of the country to maintain its base. Each promises, aspires, and preaches elimination of the other. The radical says, you know what? These chauvinists will disappear, will beat them up. And the reactionary says, these zaranyoj, will eliminate them. Each envisions, takes this not very seriously, each envisions a unilateral solution for this complicated problem and hopes to have a monolithic power in Ethiopia. Now, challenges and opportunities of progressive politics in Ethiopia. One, the subdued and submissive intellectual. That has become, I was going to use a bad word, that has become really, really just a slave for radical and extreme, highly organized groups. You have a populist and opportunist leadership. As I said, because two groups are very efficient and resourceful, the leadership always goes begging them and aspiring them instead of challenging their position. They are not willing to take risk because these people are vicious, they will insult you, they will attack you, so they are scared. The leadership say, you know what, you're right. You'll be surprised. The majority of the Oromo leaders don't believe in secessionism, but they are after. They will submit to the radical position. And the majority of the Ethiopian leadership don't believe in dismantlement of federalism. Neither do they believe in the end of ethnic politics. But they say end of ethnic politics with reactionaries. This is wrong in my view. Violence as a most preferred method has been taken. We are tired of it in 40 years. In these 40 years, it really prevented compromise politics. It made it useless. As opportunity, what I see is growing rejection of radical and reactionary politics. In a society, trust me, I go everywhere. In a society, if I go there and bash up, even among the Oromo, if I bash Amara continuously, people are fed up. The same with the Ethiopianist group. Emergence of a materialistic group. My generation really doesn't care much about ideology. We really just care. Really. People are fed up. People are really, the younger people really care about efficiency. Hey, you promised democracy, show me the money. You know? Oh, you promised me liberty or independence? Show me the money. If you don't show the money, extremists can't show the money because they are very small. That is a hope. And last, we have a changing world. The world we live in is not the Cold War world. It's a world where nonviolent struggle has a lot of proponents and supporters. 1 minute. Dr. Brown is shorter than me. He lived longer than me. Okay? He takes twice. I'm younger and I have a lot to live and taller than him too. So I need more time, people. So, a friend, we're talking in here, and there is a friend who is in Ethiopia right now. We're exchanging an idea, and he said, one tragic aspect of Ethiopian politics is the almost total absence of progressive Amaras, once embodied in the energetic personality of Walali Makonde. He said, one tragic aspect of Ethiopian politics is the almost total absence of progressive Amaras, once embodied in the energetic personality of Walali Makonde. He added, though, in a promising note, but I believe that even now progressive politics is not dead in the Amhara community. It will sooner or later assert itself. And I said, brother, silence is not golden anymore. Speak up. Well, I say I join my friend for this group. I join and say, another tragic aspect of Ethiopian politics is the continued refusal of the progressive Oromo nationalist to step up and assert his ownership of Ethiopia and play a constructive role to build an inclusive democracy and a strong and just home for all of us. On an optimistic note, I say, although silent and absent, the vast majority of Oromo nationalists are still progressive and who will come forward when time comes. Conclusion. Sunday, some 12 of them were sentenced to death and long time imprisonment. I didn't see any condemnation from the so-called Ethiopian human rights and civic organization. I didn't see it. That's unacceptable. Okay? And what is a Muslim? ይገርማቸዋል ጃዋር ሲራጅና ዶክተር ሰይድ ለማጣፈጫ ጠብ ተደረጉ እንጂ እዚህ ኮንፈረንስ look at the name. Where is the Muslim? In a country where almost half of the population are Muslim, it is shame for all of you and for all of us for not having Muslims.